welcome back to Jay's Retro Toys and Games, the ultimate digital basement where the dust never settles, the cartridges always need blowing, and the CRT televisions glow with the fierce intensity of 1,000 dying stars. Grab your favorite neon-colored beverage and kick off your sneakers and park your behind on this shag carpet, because today we are traveling back to an era when video games didn't require 50 gigabyte day one patches or internet connections. We are diving deep into a time when game design was pure, chaotic, and beautifully stressful. Today we are celebrating a true masterpiece of twitch-reflex gaming, a title that turned millions of well-behaved children into jittery, eye-straining wrecks and left an entire generation with permanent thumb blisters. That's it. That's right, my friends. Today we are talking about Activision's 1981 absolute classic, Kaboom! And it's coming up next on episode number 138 of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Okay, we are ready to go with the 138th episode of Jay's Retro Toys and Games, and we are going to start it off with a look with some sound effects from our game Kaboom right now. Okay, that was from the Atari 5200. Let's find one from the 2600 if we can. And hopefully it's a short clip. Let's see. Sometimes they have very long... Oh, here we go. Ready for this one? Here we are. Well, that was short and sweet. But there you have it. I think I would enjoy more of the 5200 if it was still played a little bit longer. Anyways, we welcome you to this Thursday edition of Jay's Retro Toys and Games, ready to go on this July 9th, 2026. Getting ready for another weekend coming up. In the middle of the month already. Whew. Once July 4th finishes, the rest of July goes swoopingly fast. But before we dissect the digital assembly code of this legendary Atari 2600 cartridge, I need to take you on a personal detour down memory lane, specifically to the concrete landscape of Queens, New York, in the glorious dawn of the early 80s. Whenever my family would visit my aunt and uncle's house in Queens, I knew exactly what the itinerary was, and it did not involve sightseeing. We would bypass the living room pleasantries, ignore the smell of whatever delicious Sunday dinner was cooking, and sprint straight to the back room where the Holy Grail awaited. A heavy wood-paneled Atari 2600 console hooked up to a heavy television set that clicked when you changed the channels. It was in that very room, surrounded by the faint hum of the city outside and the comforting static-filled warmth of that old TV, that I first encountered the Mad Bomber. My uncle used to joke that the guy on the screen looked like a local subway graffiti artist. But to us, that pixelated bucket dropper was public enemy number one, and defeating him was a matter of family honor. To truly understand how Kaboom came to be, we have to look at the dramatic corporate soap opera that was the video game industry in 1979. Back then, Atari was the undisputed king of the mountain, but they treated their software programmers like factory workers, refusing to give them box credit, royalties, or even a simple pat on the back. Frustrated by this corporate anonymity, a group of legendary programmers, David Crane, Larry Kaplan, Alan Miller, and Bob Whitehead, four names who you're going to hear a lot about in these Activision games, they walked out the front door and founded Activision, the world's first independent third-party video game developer. This was a massive gamble that changed the industry forever, proving that the talent behind the screen mattered just as much as the logo on the plastic console. Activision games quickly became famous for their vibrant colors, slick packaging, and innovative gameplay, setting a gold standard that made Atari's first-party titles look incredibly drab by comparison. The mastermind behind Kaboom was none other than Larry Kaplan, who originally set out to create a port of an existing Atari arcade game called Avalanche. In the arcade version, players used paddle controllers to catch falling rocks with a stack of paddles, but Kaplan quickly realized that rocks were boring and lacked personality. He needed a hook, something with high stakes and comedic flair to capture the imagination of kids sitting in front of their televisions. Kaplan swapped out the falling rocks for buckets of water and replaced the top of the screen with a mischievous black and white striped convict who gleefully dropped lit bombs down at the player. This simple thematic shift transformed a dry physics puzzle into a high-stakes cartoon chase, injecting a sense of humor and urgency that made the game instantly addictive. When Kaboom finally hit store shelves in 1981, it required a very specific piece of hardware that separated the casual players from the true digital athletes: the Atari paddle controller. Now, unlike the standard joystick, which felt like trying to steer a shopping cart through deep mud, the paddle controller utilized a rotary potentiometer that allowed for absolute lightning-fast precision. You controlled the stack of 3 water buckets at the bottom of the screen, and the movement was 1-to-1. If you twisted the dial like a maniac, your buckets would fly across the screen at Mach speed. The mechanics were deceptively simple, but the tactile feedback of that smooth little dial was hypnotic, creating a perfect loop of hand-eye coordination that made players feel completely locked into the machine's electronic soul. Playing Kaboom was less like playing a traditional video game and more like surviving a psychological experiment designed to test human breaking points. The game starts innocently enough, with the Mad Bomber pacing back and forth along the top of the screen, dropping bombs at a leisurely rhythmic pace while sporting a smug little grin. But with every successful wave you clear, the bomber's speed increases. His grin widens, and the bombs start dropping in erratic, overlapping patterns that defy human comprehension. By the time you reach the higher levels, the bombs are moving so fast they become a solid blur of black pixels and sizzling fuses, requiring you to enter a zen-like trance where you stop looking at individual bombs and simply react to the collective energy of the falling chaos. What made Kaboom a masterpiece of comedic frustration was its brilliant audio design, which mocked you every single time your reflexes failed. If you missed just one bomb, the entire screen flashed in a blinding explosion, and you lost one of your precious water buckets. And the Mad Bomber would jump up and down, frantically stomping his feet in celebration of your failure. That mocking little victory dance was deeply personal, provoking shots of outrage in living rooms across America and causing many a frustrated child to slam their paddle controller onto the floor. If you lost all 3 buckets, the game ended instantly, leaving you staring at your reflection in the darkened television screen, sweating, hyperventilating, and immediately reaching for the reset switch to try just one more time. In the 1980s, Activision knew exactly how to exploit the competitive nature of gamers by introducing the legendary Activision Flying Aces Club. If you manage to score a whopping 3,000 points or more in Kaboom, you could take a Polaroid photograph of your television screen, mail it to Activision headquarters in California, and receive an exclusive embroidered Activision Bucket Brigade patch in the mail. Owning one of these patches was the ultimate playground status symbol, a piece of fabric that proved to your friends you possessed the reflexes of a Jedi and the nerves of a bomb technician. Kids would proudly sew them onto their denim jackets or school backpacks, walking down the street with the quiet confidence of a true arcade champion. Decades have passed since the Mad Bomber first started terrorizing our living rooms, but the legacy of Kaboom remains entirely unexploded. It stands as a masterclass in minimalist game design, proving that you do not need orchestral soundtracks, cinematic cutscenes, or complex narratives to create an unforgettable interactive experience. All you need is a clear goal, a responsive controller, and a penalty for failure that makes you want to pull your hair out. Looking back at those magical weekend afternoons at my aunt and uncle's place in Queens, I realized we weren't just wasting time. We were participating in the golden age of a cultural revolution, one dropped bomb at a time. And there you have it, friends. Wow. What an interesting history of the game Kaboom. And it still lives on in memories. And of course, you can always look it up on YouTube and watch some fantastic footage of people playing these retro games for your viewing pleasure. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel that ever is growing by leaps and bounds. This, of course, is our 5th anniversary during the summer of games here on Jay's Retro Toys and Games, and we're hoping that you're enjoying our series on Activision. The next Activision game comes up this Tuesday. We hope you'll have a fantastic weekend, and we look forward to seeing you for another week with 2 more Activision games. Till then, I'm Jason DiCanio. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday. Bye for now.